Welcome to the Bookish Diaries. This week we have the amazing Abigail Owen here visiting with us about her newest release coming out October 21st, The Things God Break. The Things Gods Break. Abigail, how has it been since we've seen you last? It's been about a year, I think, since we last had you on.
It has. First of all, thank you for having me on again. I was excited to talk to you guys about Book Two. Yeah, it's been really good. It's been a really fun roller coaster of a year.
Awesome.
Um, okay. So jumping in, was writing the book The Things Gods Break more or less difficult than writing the games gods play?
It was definitely more more difficult. Um, I do in general find later books in a series to be more difficult, mostly because you've now established rules that you don't get to break. Versus the first book when you're like, "Wee, like I got to do whatever I want." You don't, yeah. So there is that piece to it naturally. But the Things Gods Break ended up being maybe my most complicated project that I've ever taken on because, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but there's a time travel element to it, and that just was it tried to break my brain a little bit.
I wanted to kind of touch on the. So, this is the first time you've written time travel in any of your books?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the one and only time I've done time travel, and it ended up being a complicated time travel because she's there's nobody that's really in control of it, so she's just being dragged back to random, seemingly times. And there was also an element of wanting certain information revealed at certain times, so it's not in any kind of like chronological order that she's being pulled back. And so that's what really made it complicated.
Oh, that's so fun. When you like started the Things Gods Break or even the Games Gods Play, did you know that time travel was going to come into it? Or was this kind of like something that happened as you were writing book two?
I knew before I started book two that it was going to, but actually the way it ended up working out was so usually I know exactly what I'm doing in all the books in a series before I start book one. But with games, I didn't. At the when I first started that book, all I had was the premise for book one with the trials and the crucible, and I was like, I'll figure out books two and three later. And so just had fun focusing on that book for that story's sake. And then just as I wrote the epilogue and stuck her where I stuck her at the end of book one, it was like, oh, I know exactly what I want to do for book two. And I wanted that element because of where she is to still be able to incorporate more of the romance and get even more of their story. And so there's that piece to it, but also I wanted a mystery element to it. So like I knew as soon as I finished book one, and I called up my editor and I was like, this is my idea for book two, and she was like, I love it. And so when we were in edits on book one, we made sure that we had little Easter eggs set up and knew exactly like what scenes would tie into book two in some way. I didn't have like specifically how I wanted to tie them, but it's more like, okay, when he's off doing something,
Mm-hmm.
this is probably what he's doing. And so that made it really fun. So going straight into book two, I knew exactly what I was dealing with.
Very cool.
I love time travel, so it's awesome that you added that.
It's one of my favorite elements, and particularly in this case for me. And again, this book is so hard to talk about without spoiling it because the whole thing pretty much is one big giant spoiler. Um, it's so what I loved about adding that element to it is that we find out that Hades has loved her his entire life, and so that's to me is like one of the best parts of that whole love story. Is like, oh, he's always
And we all love
That's exciting.
romance.
we do, yeah.
My heart just melted.
Yeah, I know. I'm like sitting here and I'm like, oh, I love romance.
It's the best, yeah. I'm definitely a romance forward author. Romance, like I might, it's romantasy, so you have a pretty equal blend, or at least I try to, of the romance and the fantasy elements. But I'm always romance forward.
I love that.
Me too. Okay, and
Um,
I know I'm
oh,
gonna say, oh,
no, go
go for
ahead.
it,
Go
Megan.
ahead.
Okay. Is it Lyra or Lyra?
So I say Lyra, and the reason I
Okay.
say Lyra is because she's named for the constellation Lyra, which is it's named for Apollo's lyre that soothed Hades.
Okay.
Um, but my editor loves Lyra, and so as like a little nod to her, I had the audiobook narrator call her Lyra. So that's why you're gonna I think I confuse the heck out of people that way.
That's okay. So either is acceptable.
Yes, either one is acceptable.
Okay, so how much of Lyra's full journey did you map out before writing book one, and how much has surprised you along the way?
Oh, that's a good question because I actually tend to be a plotter. Um, but I'm a weird combination of plotter and pantser. I'm a plotter when it comes to the plot itself, but like I let the characters tell me where the story needs to go, and I'll change that plot if they're taking me in areas where I'm like, oh, this is interesting, and I did not see that coming. Um, and so I don't tend to be able to see exactly how the character is going to grow and develop ahead of time. It's they tell me how they're going to go and how they're going to react. Um, so for me, that part is definitely discovery.
Um, okay, jumping into the next question. What was one of the most interesting things you learned when researching the Titans and the Greek myths? And I think I'm going to butcher this word because for some reason my brain just shut down on me. Tartarus.
Tartarus,
Tartarus.
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I think the most interesting thing, because I knew the Greek gods myths very well, and I knew part of the Titans myths, the ones that primarily feed into the Greek god myths, like Kronos eating his children to keep them off the throne, and things along those lines. I knew about Aphrodite's birth and how that worked with, and that actually goes back to more primordials. But I didn't know a lot more than that. Like, and I discovered what was interesting and I think surprised me is to discover that in the classic texts that we get most of these myths recorded in, um, that it's the reason I don't know a lot is because there's not a lot about them. Um, they really were kind of the backstory to the gods' stories, which is fascinating to me because they're in theory much more powerful creatures. Yeah, they get shoved into Tartarus and kept there, but they're supposed to be quite much a bit much more powerful, and they are, I think, a little more tied to kind of creation than the gods are. The gods are then ordering the chaos around us, but the creation piece of it is the primordials and the titans, and so that was just interesting to me that there wasn't a ton out there about them. Um, that allowed me to do a lot more playing with it because, I got to kind of make it up as I went. But it also made it a little difficult to research in that there's actually more information on the Titans from Rick Riordan's universe than there is
Okay.
in the classics. And so I had to be very careful about like, no, not that, not that. I need like the original source here, people. Like,
2008 is too soon
yes, it's
to
too
have
soon.
this.
There, yeah, exactly. I'd come
That's
across
really
something and I'd be like,
interesting.
"Oh, that's cool. I definitely have to work that in." And then I'd be like, "Oh, damn it, that's Rick Riordan." Like,
That's awesome. Oh man.
It's amazing. It's crazy sometimes to me, like what, like all of the stuff that has to go into like writing a book, like all of the time and the research that you guys do to make these stories come to life. It's pretty amazing.
it's definitely easier to do. I will say, doing it full time. When I was doing it while I was working full time, that was a lot harder. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, this whole work thing is slowing me down."
Trying to keep your brain in like different formats, like okay, book, book
Yeah,
world,
and just the amount of
job
time
world.
that it takes. Yeah. Ironically, I'm able to keep my brain in lots of different worlds apparently because like right now I'm working on three different projects at once. The writing the third book for games and then the first two books in two new series. And so to me it's all separate. Like they're all real people, it's all real worlds. I'm able to keep all of that pretty separate. But yeah, the amount of time, it's just time. I wish I could, yeah, sleep less, honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
Are
Wouldn't that be
you,
great?
I'm going to ask and you could say no, but are you allowed to give us anything about the
the
series, the
other
new
two,
one that you're writing?
no. I
Oh,
can't. They haven't remotely been announced, and so until everything's like nailed down, and I've I just turned in the manuscript for one of them, and then I'm working on the manuscript for the other one, and then I'll work on more of Games 3 right after that. So like it's all in a fluid. Actually, I'm working on games 3 concurrently. Well, honestly, just because I was like, it's too much in my head to not be working on.
Wow.
Oh, fun. Well, we will look forward to more information about that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to when we get to announce any and all of those.
So how, other than what you just told us about like Tartarus and the like OG gods, how do you decide what aspects of Greek mythology to reinterpret versus invent new lore for?
That's a really good question. Just because I love this mythology so much, I find that the characters are just fascinating, and the stories themselves are tragic and ugly and messy and very human in that way, I think, and but also still beautiful in various different ways. And um, where I it's a fine line to walk. Really, what it comes down to is how does it impact telling the story that telling. So I try to keep it as close to the true mythology as possible until I need to break it a little for my own storytelling purposes. Um, and so I do try to be very deliberate by giving little nods to readers who know these and love these myths as much as they do. Of like, hey, I know I'm breaking canon. I know I'm going off script. Like, come on the ride with me. But always, it's there's a story purpose in mind, and not just to break it for the purpose of breaking it.
Very nice. Um, so, okay. Next, I'm trying to think of which question I want to ask. Did you know from the beginning that you wanted to use the burn the world down trope, or did that come with writing the story?
That came from writing the Hades piece of the story. I am a huge fan of the morally gray hero, the anti-hero. I'm a huge fan of the idea of a guy who is an anti-hero who does have the power to burn the world down, actually being willing to. I will say that my editor had to rein me in a little bit because I was like, I'm just gonna have him actually do it. He's gonna burn the whole world, and she was like, well, maybe not the women and the children. Like, maybe leave off the innocence. And I was like, all right, I guess he can just kill gods. It'll be fine.
That's
Yeah.
so funny.
But to me, that then that edit, that just one tweak to it, as funny as it is, worked so well because it gave him an opportunity to have to try to leash his own fury, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
Um, but also gave him a chance to have this kind of like, she can do it herself. I just have to give her the runway rather
Nice.
than
And he's having
being,
to learn that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I liked that kind of slightly different dynamic because he's still super alpha with all these powers. Like, he really could have taken it to the ground basically and been like, we shall return to chaos. Like, this is where we're going now. And instead, for her and because of her, reins himself in. And I think that was an even more powerful interpretation.
See, and all of that you just explained is probably like my favorite thing in books. Like, and I never get tired of it. Like, it's like, and every time I see it in books, I'm just like, oh, I love
Was there?
you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There's something about that. But especially in this day and age, because I cut my teeth on all the really good like wolf shifter alpha heroes. You know, I shall save you. But I'm also I'm a big fan, and not necessarily in the woman being the stronger of the two. It's more like a partnership.
Mhm.
I like to see a true partnership where it's like, I'm going to acknowledge your strengths and help you bolster your weaknesses, and vice versa. We're both going to do this for each other. And so, when you're talking at God levels, that gets really fun to see.
For sure. That's so cool that you want to like highlight the trust that the partner has in the other partner and is like,
Yeah.
no, I'm letting you do it because I trust you. I think that's awesome.
Well, and particularly in Hades' case, like, that took an enormous amount of trust because he's really having going to go on a very specific kind of faith there. Like, that was yeah. I poured that poor God through a ringer. Like, I'm sorry, Hades. Like,
So a reoccurring theme seems to be chains, locks, and breaking free, both literally with the Titans and metaphorically with Lyra's curse and destiny. What do you hope readers take away from these parallels?
That's a really good question. Hmm, I'm not even sure that I consciously thought through that I had that parallel in there. Um, with that, to me, I think every person has something or many somethings in some cases of that they're overcoming or that they have to get through. And they come at you in life in unexpected moments and unexpected ways, and some take longer to solve than others, or take more help from other people to get through it. To me, it's that just know that you're gonna get through it.
Just hold on and know that
Yeah,
you can do it. Yeah.
hold on, know you can do it. Yeah. Um, to me, this is particularly personal, just in that I've had um two different people in my life very very close to me. My daughter being one, and she's given me permission to share that, but who have gone through suicidal attempts and very deep depressions, and so they're both here still, and um, it is very much a yeah, just keep holding on. Like there's light at the end of that darkness. So yeah,
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you. And tell your daughter thank you. I remember being a teenager and thinking that and going through a deep stage of depression. So people aren't alone when they think those
when they
things
think
and
they really are, yeah. It was
yeah.
definitely that was a really really rough period both for her and for us. Just as parents trying to walk alongside her through that. And that happened actually while I was working on games, which is I think why, we might have talked about this when I was on last time. A lot of that made its way into Lyra and how she dealt with her own curse, with a very dark sense of humor, but a sense of humor nonetheless. That all came from my daughter.
That's
Oh, I love
what a
that.
strong young woman. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
Yes,
yeah,
very
and she's doing
strong.
awesome now. So we're
So
and I,
cool.
having dealt with depression myself, like I know that it can come in waves, and so it's not always necessarily that you're always at the top forever. But we knew now at least we know it's almost like running a marathon. You can get through this part. You just gotta like keep chugging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So this kind of, I guess, sort of plays off of that. This next question. So the sequel pushes the question of fate versus free will. Do you personally do you personally lean toward believing we're bound by destiny, or do you think we carve our own paths?
I like both equally. Um, and I think part of the appeal, because like I said, I cut my teeth on the paranormal romances, of the post Twilight 2010s kind of space, and those are all about fated mates, and I love the fated mate trope. And I think what makes that so appealing is the idea that you can be guaranteed that you've picked the right person that is really going to be the exact right partner for you once you've figured it all out, going forward in life. And so there's, I think, something that's just there's a huge appeal there because that's not something that we are guaranteed in life. And I would say divorce rates prove that, frequently we don't pick the right person. And so, or the right person for all of life, maybe just for right now. But at the same time, I'm an incredibly independent person. I don't love the idea of being told that I don't get a choice in this matter, and so I am a big fan of um, having the independent will to be able to figure it out. So I like both equally. I think I really enjoy playing with the idea of both in the same space. So where you get those like fated mates, but you break it, or you thought it was the right fated mate, you picked the wrong one. Whoops, like that kind of thing is always fascinating to me.
Do you enjoy writing one over the other, or is one easier to write over the other?
Mm, Again, to me, I think because I like both of them pretty equally, they're equally challenging and equally easy to write.
Okay.
I think the trickiest part with fated mates is trying to avoid the insta love feel to it. Where they're still developing that relationship despite knowing that they're fated mates. Um, that's probably the biggest challenge with that, and the biggest challenge with obviously the one where it's all just free will based is like, am I picking the right guy? Because this other dude over here is pretty good too.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome.
Um, so playing off of that and talking about them, in the book, Hades and Lyra spend much of the story separated, yet their bond remains a driving force. What was the biggest challenge in writing a romance where distance and longing are center?
Um, that was probably exactly it. That the distance and the longing piece of it, particularly because she's trying to survive Tartarus and unlock all these locks, which is a new element of trials that she has to face. Um, so being able to do that while having the time and mental energy of moments of like, "Oh, Hades, I miss you." Like that was tricky. The time travel element helped a lot with that. Just because it did give them these moments, even though it's in a weird kind of alternate way of exploring that, continuing to explore the relationship and in a way that we hadn't seen yet. Um, versus just being like, let's move forward from where we already were.
I love it when I can like understand what a character is going. Like I can't understand being locked in Tartarus and having to break seals, but I can understand being really busy and like a lot of pressure and being like, "Oh yeah, I still love this person. I hope they're doing okay."
Yeah. Oh, yeah, all the time. And I also, so I'm ADHD and autistic, and so I do struggle with something called object permanence, which is that like if something or someone is not directly in my basically field of view, it's not that it's not that I forget them necessarily. They're not front of mind, and so, like, it's and I've spent years feeling guilty about, like, "Oh, I haven't talked to this friend in a long time," and the friends that I tend to stay the friends with the longest, long term and the closest to are the ones where, like, I cannot talk to them for a whole year, but when we do get back together, we just click right back in, and there's no, like, guilt, no pressure, no, "You didn't call me," like, those are the kinds of friends that I have to surround myself with because I just it does or the ones that are like, "You're gonna have to reach out to me. I don't mean it to be that way. Like, it's a terrible I'm a horrible friend. I'm a horrible friend." But
Struggle the same way.
it's
And I have like out of town friends and it's like
yeah.
and so then like they're the only ones who
I
ever
love you.
reach
I
out and I'm
think
like,
about you, like, you'll
"Oh,
pop up in my head. It's just not a good moment to reach out right then, and then I forget about it again for
exactly."
another 6 weeks, and then yeah, so, like, it's one of those, like, constant battles in my brain kind of things. And yeah, so when Lyra's in Tartarus, like, I'm writing Tartarus, and we're trying to get through stuff, and then I'm like, "Oh, yeah, maybe she should think about Hades." Okay.
That's so great.
That's what the writer part of you gets in the way of the story.
Yeah. What is your approach to writing spicy scenes that are integral to character development and plot progression?
Oh, you know what's funny? I just finished writing, an article for Writer's Digest on exactly this.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, so that's like, it's very already in my head at the moment. To me, the way I approach you're gonna laugh, the way I approach the spicy scenes is the same way I approach battle scenes.
Okay.
They are, to me, equally nuanced and complicatedly layered because you have the physical action that's happening for both, and can be happening with multiple characters and multiple things, all from one or sometimes multiple points of view. But then you also have to integrate the emotional elements, the reactions, the internal thoughts, the dialogue, and how does that change the dynamic? All of those layers. And so to me, it's about, I usually actually try to get the physical on page first because that's just logistics. And then from there, it's like, let's layer in all the emotional, the connection pieces, really what is this scene doing? And then the other piece to me that is critical is that at the end of the spicy scene, moving forward post spice, something needs to change. Not necessarily their relationship status, but something about their relationship needs to have changed. Did they break a trust? Did they build more trust? Did they, are they going to back off? Are they going to get closer together? There's got to be something that changes that moves their relationship arc forward. Um, so
So
that's how
you
I approach them.
so you don't do filler spice.
I don't tend to do filler spice, um, although I love a good filler spice. But for me, I like to make sure that my spicy scenes really are integral to the character arc, to the romantic arc, to the plot, and how we're moving it forward. I think it's why I tend to write slow burn most consistently because I want them to have built quite a bit of a connection before they add that physical element in. Um, Now, I've also had fun, like my dragon shifters. I've got one couple who they just go right at it from the get go, and so it's a very different dynamic when you're having that, because that then you're progressing from physical need into the connection, and so it's yeah, you have to approach it differently that way. But I really slow burn probably is my favorite.
I think slow burn is my favorite too. Um, and I actually prefer, now I'm not going to tell any writer how to write, because I read so many different books, but
All the
I
different
actually,
ways, yeah.
I like when you wait for that connection, at least until the second book. Like when it happens in the first book, for me anyways, I'm like, I want to feel that burn, that slow burn, and them building that connection. And so I'm like, I as a reader don't even mind if the author makes me wait till the third book
So the third
because
book,
it
wow. So
keeps
you really
me.
like a slow, like we're gonna put a simmer on this burn.
Yes,
Should
because I like
torture.
feeling, I do, but I like feeling, like being able to feel that from the characters, right? Like the yearning and the longing
Yes.
and them
That
building
push and
like
pull of the
slowly.
tension is fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, and then them slowly building that like trust and that bond instead of it just being, even with fated mates, like I've read books where there end up being fated mates, but they still like you still have this like really slow burn because they're like trying to figure out, okay, is this really what we both, like you were saying earlier, is this really what we both want? Is this
Mhm.
right? Like, do we really love each other type thing? And then just feeling all of that, like as a reader, I just like having all of those emotions and feeling it.
Yeah. I'll say that as a writer, I prefer to write the slow burn. As a reader, I read all the levels,
Yeah,
all
I
the
do too.
things.
I do too.
I do too. The one that I don't love though is instant love.
It's not
Myself.
my favorite, mostly because I think one of my favorite parts is that tension of will they, won't they figure this
Yeah.
out. And so when they figure it out a little too soon, that's harder, um, for me to like jump right into. I can do insta lust,
I can do
like
insta lust as well.
Oh,
let's
yeah.
bang it out,
Yeah.
insta lust. But
Yep.
oh, but we're not in a relationship, and then that comes later. Like I can do that very easily. But the insta love is not my preference. Yeah.
I like it when it's done well. I think people can do them really well,
Well, and
and I don't mind them.
I will say that that's true, I think, for me with all the tropes. Like, there are certain tropes that I love the most and I want to see them anywhere. And then there's certain tropes where I'm like, eh. But any trope, any, writer device, if it's done well, it can be incredible. And I'm ironically like second chance romance is not my favorite. I don't mind it too much if like they were high school sweethearts and like, life just kind of pulled them apart for a while and it
Mm-hmm.
had nothing to do with their relationship. But when it's like, oh no, we hated each other and broke up and now we're gonna try it again, I'm like, it just kind of sounds like you're too stupid to live. Um
I
and
love that
so
because that's what I think in my
Oh,
head.
I can't do it. But then I come
why do
across every
this?
once in a while a second chance romance where I'm like, well, damn, that turned my, whole dislike on its head. I loved that one. So if when it's done well, it's always amazing.
Okay, so many early readers said this book made them cry, laugh, and stay up late reading. Was there a particular scene you wrote that hit you emotionally the hardest?
Oh gosh. There were a couple that hit me pretty hard. And I know the one that's probably getting the readers the most. Was there's a particular sacrifice that happens, especially towards the end. And that one was hard to write through because of the way I had set it up. and the particular character that was doing the sacrificing. And so that one really got me. The other ones that got me though primarily were um, Hades's moments, both in current day and in the time travel moments. Just his journey, I think, was to me just really kind of special. And so
Okay.
I spent a lot of time being like, Hades, I'm so sorry. Like, what did I do to you?
Poor guy. He'll be fine. It just gives him more fuel for the fire, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, he could still burn down the world. We don't he might unleash on the next one. He'll be like, "Well, I tried holding back and this is what happened. So now it's over." Yeah.
I love that. I just love that trope.
It's
I had to
yeah,
say
there's
it
something
again.
about a guy that's like, "I don't care about anybody else but you." We're not, yeah. Yeah.
um, okay, next question. So, as a writer, how do you take care of yourself while like writing like heavy material, like trauma, sacrifice, um, love under impossible stakes? Like, how do you like balance that?
Really good question. For me, the writing of it is the catharsis. So that's how I'm working out a lot of my own personal traumas and experiences. It goes on to the pages. And in fact, the one of the projects that I just turned in, my editor was like, "This is way darker from you than I've seen before," and I'm like, "It's because the world's a dumpster fire right now, and it's all going on the page." Um, so there's that piece to it, but in general, I have this strange ability, and I've had experienced a lot of traumas, um, in my life, in like weird, unusual ones, um, where I my and I don't know if it's the autism that does this, but I have this ability to almost shut it off, and not process. And so the writing is how I process. And so that actually is actually healthier probably for me, is to get it out on the page. Where I struggle is burnout. Um, I I say yes to all the things because all the things are so fun to do. And I want to write all the stories, and I have too many in my head. And so I've burnt myself out really hard once. I'm probably like right on the cusp of it at the moment, where I'm like holding on. I'm like, if I can just make it to December, I'll rest in December. And so for me, that's the hardest part. I am lucky at the moment in that it helps having experienced the burnout before, that I kind of know the signs to look for and like what's helped me with that in the past. But I've also surrounded myself with people who try very hard to watch out for me. And so that's a very nice element to it, is that they'll be like, maybe you shouldn't, write all weekend long. Maybe you should like take a second and maybe take a nap, like something, do a puzzle or something that doesn't involve your brain. And so it's like, yeah. Um, so they keep me, I think, from being my own worst enemy.
It's so good to surround yourself with friends like that. That's
It
awesome.
is, yeah.
Okay, if you could pick one of the Titans or gods to write a spin off about, who would it be and why?
Oh, I already know. There's so many because I love my side characters and I always fall in love with them. But I want to do, actually, there's two. I want to do Medusa. Um, she pops up in book two, but she's going to be in bigger in book three, and that that Gorgon needs a happy ever after of some sort. She needs a story that ends in a positive something.
Yes.
I would love to write a Medusa story. And then the other one is Aphrodite, who surprised me in book one and just jumped off the page, fully formed, kind of like she did out of the ocean when she was born, where it was like, and I'm here. And I was like, you're amazing and I love you. And I want to write your story too.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, those two I think are probably where I would be most interested in taking, like some kind of spinoff.
Nice. Would you keep it within the realm of, excuse me?
I would, yeah. So it would be in the same world. I would have to figure out like who the new big bad is, and I don't know that I would do like a full series about the same characters. Like each one might get their own book and then have kind of an overarching, big bad plot. to connect them. So yeah, we'll see what I but I always have plans for all my side characters in all my series, and I still have like dragons that need stories, and there's a couple of mountain lion
So don't
characters
get
that need.
excited, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because the new shiny things also get distraction.
I love that.
That's fair.
I love dragons, so
Oh, dragons are the
right,
best.
they are.
There's just
Um,
nothing
oh,
better than something that's that big and powerful that breathes fire, flies, and and if they're a shifter, can shift. Yes, like they know.
Yeah.
we need
You
more
things are
dragon
better.
shifter books.
Yes, we do.
I think I've only read a few. I don't know. Maybe I need to do some digging, but I've only read a few, and I love them.
I have 2 series in the dragon shifter space, and so, yeah, I
There you
needed
go.
yeah, I needed that spinoff, and I know exactly what I'm doing with the spinoff, it's all plotted out.
It's just not enough hours
Just
in a
not enough
day.
hours, exactly, that whole sleep thing is a problem.
Oh, that's so funny. Wait till menopause, and then the sleep will become non-existent.
Oh, so I'm already entering that space, and the hot flashes are just so pleasant, and, yeah, the sleep so far, it's not coming off in the middle of the night, it's coming off, like, the ends. And part of me in the mornings at least, I'm like, "Well, that's more for me to get done today. Let's go." And but then like at 2 o'clock, I'm like, I can't do it anymore."
That's how I am right now. I can't fall asleep till like midnight, and then I do fall asleep, and then I'm probably up at like 2 or 3 a.m. and I just cannot. I cannot
Can't
sleep.
go back to sleep after that. Yeah.
No.
I have
And
a
then
superpower of being able to go back to sleep. It worked really well with babies. Really well with babies. Like I could clean a whole house and go right back to sleep. But my problem right now is that my body usually sometime between 6 and 7 these days, but sometimes as early as 5 is like, "We're awake and let's go." And and then yeah, about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I'm like, either I need a full vein like shot of caffeine or I need a nap. It's one or the other. I can't function anymore. Brain stopped functioning.
that's how I am. Exactly how I am. And then I have to have my evening cup of coffee
Yeah.
to
Used to,
function.
if I had caffeine past 3 o'clock, there was no way I was getting to bed. And now I'm like, I just needed to stay awake. I don't know what you want from me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
That little
sidetrack us.
segue into menopause. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very present
Trauma
in my mind
bond
right
over
now.
yeah. Oh my gosh. The trauma bonding. Yeah. Ugh.
Okay. So to end on a lighter note and something that's kind of fun, if this book was adapted into a film, who would you cast as Lyra in Hades?
So I get that question a lot, and I don't have my answers change from time to time. I will say that I tend to say Jenna Ortega for Lyra. I think
Yes.
her kind of darker sense of delivery that she pulled to Wednesday would translate really well because she can also be funny and light, and so I think that would translate really well for Lyra. And I just love her as an actress, and so I think she would be amazing. Um, for Hades is harder for me to pin down. I will say that Richard Madden was my initial inspiration for him, who was in like Game of Thrones and the live action Cinderella, where he was the prince. Particularly, he has that curl of white in his hair, and so that's where that came from. Was him, but he's a tiny bit older than Hades needs to be cast because I need Lyra and Hades to be more similar in age, looking at least. And so I'm like, but yeah, I like Richard Madden.
I love that.
So Richard Madden 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Sorry, Richard. Sorry. Like, you're still hot to me now. It's just the way that they're cast. Like,
Yeah,
the way
for sure. Oh. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Abigail. It has been so fun getting to hear all about The Things Gods Break, out October 21st. Will you tell our listeners how best we can find you and support you?
absolutely. First, thank you also so much for having me back on. It was great to chat with you guys again. Best way to reach me is my website, which is abigailowen.com. You can find all my socials there. I am Most active on Instagram, TikTok, and then I have Abby's Awesome Nerds on Facebook, which is a private group for anybody who wants a little more interaction. And then on my website, if you go to events, you can see like all the places I'll be popping up to sign books.
Awesome. Very cool.
Awesome.
Well,
And I was just going to say, we'll put the links below too,
Perfect. Yay.
so that way people can find them.
thank you for joining us, and listeners, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and follow for more Bookish Diaries content.
Yes. Okay, and then I'm going to stop this right now